Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at the mpv package for emacs that allows you to control mpv using emacs through its JSON interface. And I made a couple of videos about this on how you can set it up, but basically the short version is you install the mpv package in emacs and the hydra package and edit your mpv configuration file and add this bit of code that says OSD fractions. And that will show milliseconds in mpv. And then what we do is we add this bit of code here that overrides some of the mpv code as well as the org timers so that we can seek to the millisecond. So what I've done is, if I come across to emacs, is set the functions so that they can seek forward and backward a frame in a video, and also improve the hydra window that comes up when you enter the mpv mode. So what I'm going to do is open a video using the mpv play function, which is part of the mpv package, by pressing meta X, running mpv play and selecting Big Buck Bunny. I'm just going to pause that here, and what I'm going to do is press capital O on the keyboard, and that's going to show the milliseconds in the video. And what I'll just do is just move this next to each other. So what I can do now is I've got mpv, I've got emacs focused here, and if I press the keyboard shortcut, which brings up the hydra, which is function 2, and then press space, it's going to start playing the video. And so what I'll just do is pause that here, and what I've done is tweaked the window that comes up for hydra so that it actually has a sort of list of the functions and the keyboard shortcuts. So you can see here we've got sort of seek, and we've got the keys listed here to seek backwards 5 seconds, 60 seconds, seek forward 60 seconds or 5 seconds, which are H, J, K, and L, which are the Vim keyboard shortcuts. And those are also the keyboard shortcuts I've got set in my mpv inputs.config file, so that if I focus on mpv here and I press H, J, K, and L, you can see the videos seeking forward and backwards. And basically I can do the same thing with this mode here in emacs. So as you can see, what I'm doing is using this mpv mode, which is sending the keyboard shortcuts to mpv's JSON interface to control mpv. And what I've done is added a new bit of code so that you can actually move forward and backwards a frame. So you can see here listed, these are the seek commands to seek forwards and backwards. These are step commands to step forward and backward a frame. So if I press comma, it's going to go back a frame, and if I press period, it's going to go forward a frame. So if I keep the period pressed, you can see it's continued to play here. I take my finger off, and it stops, and you can see the exact frame we're on here. So what you can do is you can, as I say, you can go backwards, but seeking backwards is actually slower because the way it works is it has to sort of decode the frames backwards, which is slower than actually doing it forwards. So as you can see here, I can play this forwards. So that's two things I wanted to fix, is the ability to go forward and backward frames. And what that allows you to do is actually seek to an exact frame. And what you can do is, as you can see here, there's an action, insert playback position. And what that's going to do is insert the playback position of mpv into a document you've got open in emacs, so that you can basically go through a video and go forward a frame and start marking out bits of the video just by inserting the timestamp. And as you can see here, what we've got is the actions listed here. So we've got space, which will pause and play the video, toggle play and pause. got insert the playback position, which I mentioned, and we got Q to quit. And you can see down here this is also listed down here as well, and I'll show you why that is in the code in a bit. Let me just have some more tea. That's two things: is basically setting up the ability to go forward and backward a frame, and also trying to improve the hydra menu that comes up when you go into the mpv mode by pressing function 2. So if I press any key that's not listed here, it will bring me out of this mode. So I can press Q and it's going to quit mpv, and if I press W, it's going to exit from the hydra. So as you can see here, I've got a list of timestamps. What I'm going to do is just open that video again and pause it and just rearrange the windows. And now I can press F2 bass, and it's going to start playing through like this, and go forward frames. And again, if I press any key that's not listed here, it's going to take me out of this mode and insert me back into emacs and allow me to go up and down the timestamp. So if I press W, I'll exit the hydra, and now I can move up and down here. And there's another keyboard shortcut I've defined, which is Control X, comma. And what that will do is that will seek to this position in the video where the cursor is. So what I can do is, if I start to play it, as you can see, you can go backwards and forward frames. What I'm going to do now is come out this little section here and show you how you can insert timestamps. Oops, I'll spell it properly. Damn. I'll just put this in a block and I'll open the video. Out. So let me just see. Okay. Press F2, bass, it's going to start playing, and I can now advance frame by frame or skip ahead. So say I want to get, and it's just about hit by this. So on a particular frame, I want that frame. So I've got emacs focused here, and what I also should do is press switch over to mpv, press capital O, show the actual playhead position there, and I've got emacs focused here, and then we go back into the mode. I can press I on the keyboard and it's going to insert the timestamp. See, there's a weird thing. As you can see, it jumped. So there's a weird thing where sometimes you've got emacs focused and you'll insert the timestamp and it'll look wrong, but when you sort of move your cursor back over to here, it sort of switches back. So there are some sort of weird behaviors. But let me just do that again, insert a new line, and so say we want to sort of show a particular bit, you know, want to mark out a particular bit when something happens. Press I on the keyboard. Let me just go back a bit, and coming to this, and I'll show you how you can jump to the timestamp. So if I exit the Hydra by pressing W, come back here, jump to those sections. That's how you can insert timestamps to sort of mark stuff out. So let's just find another section like this bit here. So I'm holding periods just to go frame by frame. The one issue is when you insert the timestamp, it does it on the where the cursor is. So the problem is at the moment, you can see here if I insert the timestamp, it's going to basically overwrite this bit of text. So I actually have to sort of come out and reposition the cursor. So one thing that's needed to be fixed is when you insert a timestamp, also insert a new line. So I've got the cursor position there, and I now press I press function F2 and then I is going to insert the timestamp there. And I think there's a way you can also insert an org timer. So where's the org timers? So it will actually lay out in an org timer list. Find the actual thing. Like start timer. There's a way you can actually put in an org timer list, but for some reason I always have problems getting it to work. So it's basically, you should be able to press something like when you're in an org timer list, press something like meta return, and it'll insert the timestamp. And I think the format is something like this. See if I can get this to work. It's inserting it. What I mean is it's inserting it in this format here, whereas org timers were basically a list. And when you'd have the timestamp, and then you'd have a colon and text. So you could basically mark out the sort of scenes. So it gives you a way to sort of create a list with timestamps, and it's basically an org timer list. But for some reason, I always have problems getting it to work. This package. Yeah, you're supposed to be able to press Alt 2 or something, Alt turn, and it should insert the org timer list, but for some reason, as I said, I can't get it to work. So that's a bit of a failure, but that's what's supposed to happen. So what I'll do now is quit this video and just show you the code. I can press function Q and it's quit, and then I can press any key that's not listed here to exit the Hydra. And so what I'll do is switch across to, hang on, screen mode, switch across to the bit of code, come down to the bottom. Okay, so this is the default sort of bit of code they sort of give you on the mpv.el wiki used with this package. And this is what I was talking about, org meta return insert playback position. But for some reason your cursor's got to be at a certain point, and always had trouble getting it to work. But this is the bit of code I showed you in a couple of previous videos about overriding some of the functions in the mpv.el package, as well as the all timers package, so that they support milliseconds. So I'll come across to the new bit of code here, and this was a bit of code to step forward and backwards in the video. And basically, there are two functions that work with MPV. It's commands that you can send to MPV over the JSON interface, and they're frame step and frame back step, and that basically moves the video frame forward or frame backwards. And in the mpv.el package, there's a command called mpv in queue, and you can use that to send commands to MPV over the JSON interface that's basically created using this package. And this is the sort of format that you need to get that to work. And I found this on sachachua's one of her sort of emacs packages she created, which I'll show you in a second, which is really interesting. Basically, this allows you to move forward one frame, back a frame. And what I found is I needed to add this bit of code around it with eval after load MPV, and basically what that does is, after the MPV package is loaded, I sort of run this function, and then what I do is I bind these functions to the hydra down here. So this is the layout of the hydra and how we get that menu to come up. So let me just switch back to this and show you the menu again. So this menu here, so this is what shows up when you press function F2, and what that does is it activates the hydra, and what then happens is these keyboard shortcuts get sent through to MPV over the JSON interface, and you can't sort of move around in emacs like you would until you exit the hydra. And basically this is the layout where we've got the seek, step and action columns, and we've got this stuff listed down here. So this is what it looks like, and I'll just switch back to the emacs configuration file. So we've got a namespace here, hydra MPV, and we define the global map, and that's the keyboard shortcut to activate this. And it was quite difficult to actually find keyboard shortcuts that aren't already taken by emacs. And then what we've got down here is this bit of code inside these two double quotes down here. So we're sort of laying out these columns here, and what you have to do is add these sort of carets, sort of lay out the columns, and then what we have is these sections here, underscore H, underscore H, underscore J, A-L. Those will correspond to these sections down here. So that's what sort of gets shown in the menu basically, and these are the commands that actually call these functions. So like H runs the MPV seek backwards function to seek backwards 5 seconds, and so on for each of these. And we've got MPV frame back step and frame step, and those are these functions up here. So we've got insert frame, step forward, back, quit, pause, and those all correspond to these things basically listed here. And so that's how we create the menu. Let's exit that. So when I run MPV play, and now I've got emacs focused, and if I press function F2 and then space, going to play, and this little window basically stays up and doesn't exit. So you have this up, you can see MPV's not focused. Emacs has got switch back to that. But basically the idea is that you have the video open and you've got this sort of cheat sheet, the commands to control the video. So pause, play, and again press capital O with MPV focus to show you the time with the milliseconds there. So pressing the comma key goes backwards, and as I said, it goes backwards slower than forwards because for some reason it's more difficult for it to decode the frames backwards. So it's slower than actually going forwards. So if I just keep period pressed, it's going to go play forwards. So you can actually seek to the exact frame once. So it's really useful because sometimes if you're doing stuff with FFmpeg, you actually want to edit part of the video. You normally go through sort of MPV, have to play it, and make a note of the time code. But using this, you can actually go through here, and then you can insert the time code into the document, so that you can work out all the scenes that you want to chop up or do something with. So that's basically the two things that I wanted to fix, is getting the frame forward and backwards working so that you can actually speak to an exact point in the video. Actually insert the timestamp, and also fixing the hydra menu that comes up so that it's a bit more readable and shows you what the keyboard shortcuts do and how you can control MPV using Emacs. So as I say, I can just press Q here to quit that, and then just press any key not listed here, and that exits the hydra. Basically, once you've done that, you can go back into excuse me, into Emacs just like you would normally, and this is basically the setup to get this working. As I say, restore MPV package, hydra, edit your config mpv, mpv.config file, and add osd-fractions. And then once the video is open, press capital O to show the time in the on-screen display. If you open the video from the command line, it will actually show the on-screen display in the terminal and give you the milliseconds. But if you're not opening it from the terminal, you also want the ability to see the exact time above the video. So once you've done that, this is the bit of code that sets MPV up so that it will seek the millisecond using this mpv.el package, as well as org timers. And basically the way it does that is by creating some new regular expression to match period, and then some some decimals, a couple of numbers after the format, which is normally :00:00:00 :00:00 for hours, minutes, seconds. So what we have to do is search for dots and then the milliseconds, and also we have to override the org timers, because by default the org timers package doesn't support milliseconds. So there's some additional code in here that does the job and gets it so that it will work with MPV and allow it to seek to the exact frame in the video. And again, this is the next bit of code down here, which is adding the ability to seek forward and backwards a frame by pressing comma and period in the when you've got the hydra open. And this is the hydra code here, and what this does is, this is the global map. So when you press F2, after you've opened the video with mpv play, you can then press pause, play, whatever, and this is the menu that comes up with all the functions that get run, like seek backwards, seek forwards, step backwards and step forwards, set the playback position, pause and quit. And these will be listed in a column sort of layout like this. And again, you've got this sort of weird syntax where you've got sort of little carrots after each column here, like that. And then again, you have this sort of layout here, which is for sort of the lists of things that come up under each column. And what you also have to do is have these little double carrots here for empty items in the column, sort of space it out. So, and also another little carrot there, which adds another line between this and these items that also show up at the bottom. So what happens is all these keys get listed underneath this menu, and you can actually add like a little bit of text, a bit of descriptive text for some of them, but some of these functions I'm running also take an argument like -5, -60, whereas some of them don't, like this frame back step and step forward and insert playback position, pause and quit. So for these ones I can actually add a little description, but for these ones, because they're using this bit of code here as an argument, it doesn't show up as a description. So let me just go back and show you what I mean. So what I mean is, as you can see here, we've got quit, pause, insert, forward, back. But these ones here, H, J, K, and L, they're listing like -5 and 60. And that's because those are arguments that I'm passing to those functions to either seek backwards 5 seconds or seek forward 60 seconds. So they don't actually show up as little sort of tips or little sort of descriptions. And the other thing is I haven't figured out how to hide this section and just have this block up here. So those are a couple of sort of minor niggles with the hydra and getting it to work and tweaking it. And also I couldn't figure out how to change the color. You can change there's different sort of things you can change. You can run the function, or you can run the function /body, and then you can change the color. But then what happens is when you hit the keyboard shortcut, the menu comes up and then press something and it disappears again. Whereas what we want is the menu to stay open while you actually got the video open as well, so you can see what you're doing. You can see all the keyboard shortcuts that you want to use. That was just one sort of minor niggle with the layout of this, is sometimes this will come up like little pause or quit or whatever, but for these ones you can't actually add another description. And also I've got it listed here, duplicated here, so that's just a few minor niggles, but it's a bit better than before where it was just a random list of keyboard shortcuts without any description. So doing it like this is a bit more helpful, and there are other things you can do with the hydra to tweak it and I think highlight things, but I haven't quite got my head around how you set that up. But that was just what I wanted to sort of improve this sort of setup, is having this be a bit more descriptive and also have the ability to move backwards and forwards frames. As you can see, going backwards is much slower here, whereas going forwards, if I just press period and keep the key pressed, it's going to play at normal speed here. So again, you can just use all these keyboard shortcuts here. And again, the other thing that you can do is find custom functions that will send a particular command to MPV. One of the things I was looking at is how you could get MPV to take a screenshot. Because if you've got MPV focused here, you can just press S on the keyboard and it's going to take a screenshot. So it'd be nice to have that ability in this menu as well, so that you can go to a particular frame you want, like that, and then hit a keyboard shortcut to take a screenshot of that frame there. So that's another thing that would be nice, but I haven't figured out the actual command that you need to send. But it may be similar to, come across back to emacs and down here. So this is what I was talking about. These are the commands that use the mpv and q command from mpv.el. This is using the frame step command to go forward. I think there's another command called screenshot. So I'm just wondering if it's possible to sort of kind of duplicate this code and get it to send the screenshot command, so that you can actually advance to a particular frame and just press S on the keyboard and it's going to take a screenshot. So that'd be something that'd be quite useful. I think this is how you'd be able to send any command that MPV will accept to do something, move forward, backwards, take screenshots, that sort of thing. But anything in the MPV manual should work, because it's basically accepting stuff over the sort of JSON interface that it creates. So that's just another thing that occurred to me, and that's how basically you can get the function to run after MPV is loaded. As I said, what I found is you need to have this with eval after load MPV. So this is after the MPV package is loaded. We're sort of creating this new function, because what I found is if you don't do that, sometimes it works and then sometimes it throws some kind of weird error. So I don't know anything about this, but that sort of seemed to make it a bit more robust. I'll put links to all this under the video, and that will basically allow you to seek forward and backwards in a video, and then insert the timestamp or jump to any timestamp got listed in a text file, and mark bits of a video out so that you can use those timestamps with things like ffmpeg to chop the video up or process it or apply filters to a particular range of a video, or anything else. But it just basically means that you can actually jump to any point in the video with MPV, and also just insert the playback position into the document. So again, these are all timestamps from a video that's been chopped up into scenes, and this is the sort of format that will get inserted into the document. And what that means is you can use the timestamps from MPV with ffmpeg, so you can actually seek to a particular bit in a video and create a clip from a scene you've marked out in an org file by controlling MPV. So I'll put links to everything under the video, and it's really easy to set up. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention before I forget it is I've got the code from, so there's this package Sachachua's created called Waveform. Yeah, my spelling is terrible today. Okay. So this is really cool. Basically, what this package does is give it a video file, and what it does is it creates a waveform of the video file of the audio, basically different bits of the audio, and inserts it as an SGV graphic. And then what you can do is actually click using the mouse positions in the audio, and it will actually start playing the video from that point. So you can actually sort of click different peaks in the audio to see where someone's saying something, and it'll actually jump to that point. And you can come across yeah, here we go. So this is the waveform-el package, and it's sort of experimental. And what you need to do is say install mpv, and obviously the mpv package for emacs, and this package. And what you need to do is come across, go to the raw view, and then save it. So waveform.el. And if I come across to my emacs config, let's actually install this anyway. So in my emacs config, okay, here we go. In my emacs config, I've got a section that says add to list load path config emacs lisp, and then there's this next block of code that says load, and that's the name of the package. So waveform. So what I'll do is I'll demo this, actually, might as well. We'll copy that waveform.el to config emacs lisp, and then reload the file. Switch back to the desktop. And the way you use this is if I run meta x and then waveform-show, what it's going to do, it's going to prompt me for a video. And I've got let's go with Big Buck Bunny, because it's, so what it's going to do now is it's going to sort of process this here. Let me open this, see if I can get this to come across. And if I left click here, you can see it's actually jumping the position in the video. If I play this, that's mad. I haven't quite got my head around using it. As I say, it's sort of experimental, but basically the way it's working is it's created a audio waveform from the video and inserted it into emacs as an SVG, and all the peaks and everything got timestamps, so that when you left click with the mouse, it actually jumps to that position in the video. If I run meta x, I can run waveform, and if I press tab, you can see some of these are the functions that are available. And I haven't actually gone into playing around with these. I've only opened the video file and clicked around with it, because it's sort of experimental, so there's not a lot of documentation, and trying to read through the Lisp sometimes is a bit, the actual code's a bit, overwhelming trying to figure out what it all does. So these are the options that you can see here. I just want to quit. I'm going to quit. Take you back to Emacs. So if I come back across here, this is the package by sachachua, waveform package. You can see here, this is some of the sort of instructions, like left click on the waveform to copy the timestamp and start playing from there. I think you can basically use it with subtitle files. So that you've got a subtitle file here, and you can sort of click around. What's actually show you the subtitles as well at that point. So you can actually sort of click through and actually see the text of what someone's saying just by clicking around through the SVG. So if you just come across here, you can see this, the actual sort of code that basically does the business. And this is some of the keyboard shortcuts that are defined, but I haven't sort of really played around with this. So you can actually have a look at how this is sort of set up, but it's pretty amazing. And as I said, it's really easy to install. So just come across, go to raw, save it, and again in your Emacs config, you want to have something that loads Lisp images. So something like add to list, load path, and then the path to the Lisp directory. And after that, you put in load waveform, load file, reload your config file, back to scratch. And again, the way you sort of use this is by running meta-x and then waveform-show. It'll prompt you for a video file, so go for Night of the Living Dead. And because this video is about an hour and a half long, it's going to take about 10 or 15 seconds for it to actually generate the waveform graphic using FFmpeg. So you can see here we've got mpv open. You can actually I've got subtitles set up with this video. You can actually see the subtitles in mpv here. This is the whole video. So you can actually see the waveform of the whole video and actually jump to different bits, and there's a way to get the timestamps. Another thing is, I don't know why I get this sort of flashing effect around the SVG. I don't know if there's a way to scale the SVG in Emacs. But as you can see, this works really well, even though it's sort of experimental. If I play that.
I jumped out at you.
And one thing I should say is, in a previous video I did, I showed bits of The Living Dead, and I got a copyright claim, even though it's in the public domain, and chop out 10 seconds of the video. So I'm not going to play the audio. I don't know how I can get a copyright claim for something that's in the public domain, but there you go. So this is how you can sort of see the whole video actually jumping. You can see the timestamps down here jumping around. So pretty impressive stuff, but I haven't got much further than just actually clicking around in the video and being amazed that it actually works inside of Emacs, and that you've got this waveform here showing the whole video, and you can just click around. I think you can do stuff like select. So if I press meta-x and run waveform, press tab, these are the functions that you can run. So you've got waveform mode, you can seek return to mark. I think what that does is can actually click somewhere in the video and go MPV return to mark, and it will just keep going back to the point. And you see you've got stuff like frame back step, forward step, seek to, select. You've got all these different options that you can have a look at. Waveform, MPV position, seek forward. So I haven't played around with it too much. If I just switch back here and just do quit. So it was from this bit of code that I found the mpv and q. Somewhere in here was a bit of code that I was using to step forward and backward a frame. One of these somewhere around. That's basically where I found the codes that I added to allow you to seek forward and backward a frame. So this is the blog post about this, and you can see here this is the sort of layout. I haven't actually managed to get this sort of layout here, and that's maybe because I haven't got an external subtitles file open or something. I couldn't figure out how you got this sort of layout to show the actual subtitles when you click around in the video. But here's the instructions, and this is the GitHub page. You put it back, and it's really easy. It's really easy to install. Just download the raw version, put in your Lisp file directory rather. Reload your emacs config, and then run what was it? emacs waveform-show to select the file, and you can see down here instructions for sort of jumping to different points in the video. As you see, you can sort of use shift left and shift right to make smaller steps, copy the current MPV position, and do loads of stuff with it. So it looks like a really interesting package to play around with if you do a lot of stuff with video, because you can generate a waveform with FFmpeg on the command line, but this takes it to the next level, and you can actually jump around based on the audio waveforms. So you can actually see, a big bang happens or something, you want to jump to that point, you can easily see what's going on in the video instead of having to have your headphones plugged in and listen to the whole thing. You can just see all the different points in the video and just instantly jump to that point. So be useful for stuff like if you want to mark out bits of a video, you can easily scan them, get the time code, and drop the video up with those time codes using something like FFmpeg. So that's something else I wanted to mention, as well as fixing the ability to go forward and backward a frame and setting up the hydra menu. So that's another thing, is come across to emacs hydra. This is the hydra package, and these are sort of some of the instructions, and this was some of the sort of code that I sort of pinched. And again, another thing that to mention is the sort of format you have, like hydra sort of buffer menu, and then you have like /body, and when you have it like that, the sort of menu seems to disappear, but you have a sort of different syntax, and it allows you to sort of set the color up here, but you don't have this /body. It basically throws an error and doesn't set the color, and it just menu stops working. So I haven't figured out how you can actually set the color for the menu, because it's got a sort of different sort of syntax. So it's not totally obvious from this and some of the wiki pages how you get this to be a bit more customizable and set the color, tweak it a bit. But maybe that's just me. So that's some of the things I just wanted to cover, and that waveform plugin, which is really interesting, and looks very promising. Lets you jump around in it. I think you can change some of the functions, so you can change the color of the waveform, so you can change it to green or blue, but you'll have to look at the code and see how you do that. But basically it uses mpeg in the background to create the waveform, and again, if the video is like an hour and a half long or something, as you can see, about 10-15 seconds to create the waveform and then stick it into emacs. Whereas if it's a short clip, it's only going to take a second or two. So that's one thing to bear in mind about using it. So I'll leave the links to all this under the video, and that's all for now.